We all love big tires, but before you whip out the sawzall and start chopping away, there are 4 knobs you can turn that will greatly reduce the amount of cutting, or even eliminate it altogether. These concepts were commonly misunderstood, so many people end up spending money but got more rubbing. For example, I have seen many lifted Toyotas still rub on the popular 33s. Meanwhile, this low-key FJ fitted the same size tire, and it didn't even rub the rubber mudflap. So in this video, I want you to gain a scientific understanding of tire clearance. And in the end, I will share one counterintuitive tip that helps you fit bigger tires by spending less money. Alright, let's get started. Hi, welcome to Tinker's Venture. I'm Kai. This tire fitting guide focuses on the front tires of the Toyota Prado 120 and 150 platform. All concepts still applies to other IFS rigs, but the exact number would differ. The first metal part you rub is the body mount structure on the frame. And if you have a more aggressive setup, the pinch weld flange right above it is next. Many people intuitively think they rub only because of the larger tire diameter. However, the offset of the wheel, basically how much it sticks out to the side, plays an equally large role as tire diameter. Mathematically. Let me show you. Here I have a GX460. I removed the front spring and compressed the suspension to bump stop. I mounted the stock 32-inch tires with a positive 4mm wheel offset. Each foam block is ½ inch thick, so the tightest clearance to the body mount was around 1.5 inches, occurred slightly before the steering reaches full lock. Now, how would this clearance change after I install a 1¼ inch wheel spacer? A wheel spacer has the same effect as having a more negative wheel offset, so the original plus 4mm minus 1.25 inch equals a negative 28mm total offset. Now, when I do the same test, I can only fit less than 2 pieces of foam, so the new body mount clearance is a little less than an inch. We just lost 5/8 of an inch clearance. Then I switched to a 2-inch wheel spacer, and we observe around 1 inch less clearance compared to no spacer at all. In other words, if we reduce the wheel offset by X, going more negative, we bring the tire roughly X/2 closer to the body mount. Here's a relevant example. You change the tire from 32s to 33s. You lose ½ inch clearance to the body mount because of tire radius. But along the way, you also change the wheel, going from the factory positive 15 offset to a negative 12. So the wheels and tires are now located 27mm more outwards, and from this, you lose another ½ inch of body mount clearance. This was why I said wheel offset mathematically plays an equally large role as tire diameter. Many people intuitively think that when we steer left to right, the front tire pivots about its center like this. But no, the tire pivots about the steering axis defined by the upper and lower ball joint. As you can see, it lives outside of the tire and it is not vertical. The tire actually swings around an arc about that steering axis. It does not pivot on a dime. So the more the tire sticks out away from the steering axis, a bigger arc it swings on, pushing it closer to the body mount. Similarly, a wider tire will also stick out further, which have the same effect as wheel offset. But on the inner side of the tire, usually at 295 or wider, the tire can actually rub the upper control arm. This will force you to run more negative wheel offset, and in turn hurt body mount clearance even more. Fitting tires is very much a 3-dimensional problem, so don't go too wide if you can swallow some ego. It's not a bro truck challenge. One thing to note is that a long travel IFS, basically longer control arms, also makes the wheel sticks out. But the key difference here is that longer control arms moves the steering axis itself outwards, whereas wheel offset increases the scrub radius. long travel IFS will actually help fitting larger tires. I made a video comparing two long travel kits I owned and how each fit larger tires. I will link it below. In addition to how far the tire sticks out to the side, its position front to back is also critical. Many people heard a high caster moves the tire forward, which helps clear the body mount area. So they intuitively believe a high caster upper control arm is what they want. This is a classic causal fallacy. Let me explain. Caster is the angle between the steering axis and true vertical when viewed from the side. When we move the lower ball joint forward, we move the wheel forward. At the same time, the caster angle increases. However, high caster angle does not always mean moving the wheel forward. If we increase caster via the upper control arm, it moves the upper ball joint backwards. So it actually moves the wheel slightly towards the rear. Many high caster UCA adds too much caster. As a result, in order to achieve a proper wheel alignment, we cannot adjust the lower ball joint forward. Or worse, we may have to adjust it backwards. So in the end, we have even less body mount clearance than stock. I reviewed this topic in more details in my UCA video. Check it out after this one to learn more. From my measurement, you can shift the front wheel at most half an inch forward using the lower control arm. Some aftermarket lower control arms allow shifting the tires even further. It is great for clearing the body mount area and also increases approach angle. But starting around 34 to 35s, you'll start rub at the front part of the inner wheel well. So moving the tire too much forward makes clearing this area even more difficult. On the other side of this wall is the engine bay, where the battery and other components are mounted. The easiest way to clear this area is by running a body lift, but the trade-off is higher center of mass. So the more advanced wheeler would do a sheet metal tub on the wheel well and relocate some stuff inside the engine bay. This is way more involved than your typical body mount chop. I'm not even gonna touch that. So think twice if you plan to significantly shift your front tires forward. Alright, you're probably thinking, what about suspension lift? Shouldn't that be the first thing we talk about? Well, hold that thought, it's coming. But if this video has been eye-opening to you thus far, I will really appreciate it if you check out the products I design on tinkerdesign.com. This is the best way to support me to produce more videos like this one. Alright, let's talk about suspension lift. If you are new to this channel, you're probably waiting to learn how much lift you need to clear X-size tire. But for my returning viewers, allow me to beat the dead horse one more time and bury it for good. For IFS Toyotas, a suspension lift does not help you fit larger tires. I repeat, it doesn't matter whether you have the bone stock factory suspension, a 1.5-inch lift with Bilstein 5100s, or a full 3-inch lift with $2,000 adjustable coilovers. The front tire, in all three cases, can all still move up to the same position. This up travel limit is set by the bump stop hitting the lower control arm, not the coilover in a lift kit. So a suspension lift will only help you clear large tires driving on flat ground. The body mount simply hovers above your spinning tires. It will still rub when the suspension cycles. So using a lift to clear large tires is a poor band-aid solution. Yes, you can definitely extend the bump stop to prevent rubbing during compression. They aren't typically included in the IFS lift kit because they have a net decrease in suspension travel. So this is not my favorite idea. But if you want to run 35s or more, this could be a last resort to minimize cutting. And I believe extended bump stop is part of the recipe for the Bronco Sasquatch package, which comes with 35s. So a Sasquatch Bronco has less wheel travel than a non-Sasquatch one. One thing to note, lifts for solid front axle, like those for Jeep Wranglers, are different. Check out my Jeep versus Toyota video for more details, and we won't digress further. Now, back to IFS. A suspension lift does improve all kinds of ground clearance, which is crucial for off-road. But when poorly executed, one may actually end up with more rubbing. Here's an example. Our friend Chad just got a white 5th Gen 4Runner, and he wants to fit some meaty 285s. He read all over the internet that he needs a lift to fit larger tires. As typical Chad, he lifted a full 3 inches. But after this much lift, the front track width becomes narrower due to the control arm angle. So he slaps on some high negative offset deep dish wheel. At the same time, he installed a set of shiny high caster UCAs because caster is what everyone raves about. But little did Chad know, every step he took after the lift brought his tire closer to the body mount. So he still ended up doing a body mount job, but still kinda rubs off-road. Similar story is far too common in the Toyota community. I want to clarify that by no means I said an IFS lift itself will hurt tire clearance, but oftentimes wheels and alignment after the lift will. In comparison, my friend Peter, whose FJ was featured in my sway bar video, also wanted 33s. Now, here comes the counterintuitive tip I mentioned in the beginning. Peter literally did nothing but mounting the tires. The factory wheels has a positive 15mm offset, so the scrub radius is very minimal. 285 is also not too wide, so he fully clears the factory upper control arm. Because Peter is at factory ride height, the IFS control arms are all horizontal, so the front track is at its widest. Even at factory alignment, wheels not shifted forward, Peter fully clears the body mount, even with that bulky rubber mud flap. Peter was very happy with his setup, and all he spent was the set of new tires. And of course, many people may not be satisfied with this minimalist setup. We may want a little more tire and a little more lift. So here I present you the next step up solution. Lift only 2 inches or less, because it won't help clear large tires anyway. With the low lift, most likely you can keep the factory upper control arm. But when you do an alignment to recover caster, the lower control arm is naturally shifted forward, which moves the tire forward. You will also retain more articulation with the low lift. If this still doesn't satisfy your taste and you want to go even taller and wider, go watch my UCA and long travel videos for more tips. And the rest is cutting.
Hello, I'm Johnny in Knoxville, and this is Bam's Hummer.
Go check out tinkerdesign.com, and thank you for watching.